Let's look at the misogyny of dog culture, the systemic oppression, violence towards women of dog ownership. So, in our society, here's a picture of what a lot of people are going to try to connect this to. It's these fat, bloated, capitalist rich guys because they own all of this profit, right? They own all these businesses and stuff. They're getting rich off the profits from all this stuff. Well, I'm going to show you guys in today's video that is nowhere near accurate. It's actually the women doing this stuff to their fellow women via the dog culture. So, is it toxic masculinity, capitalism? Is it all these terrible rich white dudes? No, it's something else. And that's why when politicians and people on the TV screen, your Hollywood people that claim to love women and be feminist, if they're not talking about the stuff I'm about to show you, then they're just trying to push this on you. They're trying to push this mindset of hating your fellow humans because they have more money than you. Let's start off with dog shelter workers. Are they mostly female? Yes. The animal welfare field, including dog shelters, is predominantly female, women making up a significant majority of the workforce. This trend has been consistent since the inception of the animal protection movement. So think about that. The animal protection movement is connected to all this stuff that I'm about to share with you. So animal protection does not go along with human protection or all the other great things that they say it does. So dog attack injuries in shelters, where we just read predominantly female, those are on the rise, with reports indicating that employees and volunteers face risk from unfamiliar dogs, violent dogs, and they say here that increased transparency about dog behaviors and histories is needed to prevent these. Well, maybe they just shouldn't have dog shelters, and maybe they shouldn't be marketing working with dogs to women who have all of these hormones that are helping them decide to be part of this job. So attacks in shelters are on the rise on women. That's not good. So what about dog groomers? 93% of those are female. A significant gender imbalance, they call it. They call it. This contrasts with the higher interest in dog grooming among males compared to those who worked in the field. So, dog grooming businesses, they take advantage of women. The women think, because of all the marketing, all the other dog owners that say dogs are so precious, they think that being a dog groomer is going to be so great. But they have to lift heavy, obese dogs. The dogs come in there and they shit and piss all over the place. Then you got groomers along, and this is all being perpetrated on, look, females. Yeah. As we look at some of these industries, please pause. Pause and think about a question. The question is, if this was an industry where these females worked for other humans instead of for dogs, would these females suffer as much? Like, if you were a hairdresser instead of a dog groomer, would you be having to pick those people up, put them in giant bathtubs, strap them up? Would they be biting you and scratching you and sending you to the hospital with infections and groomer's lung? No, they sure as hell wouldn't. Dog grooming is not very safe. Being a hairdresser is relatively safe. So, dogs are not better than humans. Dogs are worse than humans. Think about that as we look at these industries with women being incentivized to serve dogs. If they were serving their fellow humans, they would be a lot safer. So, dog groomers, as we were looking at, various health hazards, repetitive strain injuries, back pain, skin conditions, respiratory problems, the risk of bites. Yeah, there's a lot of problems with this. There's many occupational studies that you can read about the hazards of being a dog groomer. Many women have extensive YouTube channels about how they quit being dog groomers because they weren't told about groomer's lung. They weren't told about the dogs that can bite them. They weren't told that they have to sit there and wash feces down a big tub every time the dog comes in because the dog owners are so lazy and entitled. Yep. So what about doggy daycare? Yep, predominantly female. Similar to many caregiving professions, this trend reflects the broader pattern in occupations that involve care and supervision. Yeah, so doggy daycare, mostly women. So, doggy daycare, like with our other professions, guys, health risks due to exposure to various illnesses that can spread among dogs. They can take home illnesses that get onto their dogs and into their throat and eyes and their clothes. And they have environments with, look, inadequate sanitation. And then there's the physical demands of the job and potential for bites and injury. Yeah, so this is not a super healthy thing to take care of dogs. They're not the best friend that you think they are. And it's a workforce that's predominantly female. So it is systemic violence and systemic repression on these females. When they have to deal with all this crap at their job, how do you think that affects their mental health? How do you think it affects their hormones? How do you think it affects their ability to go home and raise their own children when they're already being hammered by all this nasty stuff from dog ownership? So what about dog walkers? Just people that walk dogs. 86% of those are female. Well, guess what? Dog walking has become increasingly dangerous with a significant rise in injuries reported over the past 2 decades. Fractures and sprains, distractions such as using a phone, the behavior of the dog. Yeah, there is a ton of these. You can find all kinds of interesting stories about dog walkers where the dogs get into fights or they run into a stray dog and then the dogs they are walking get into a fight. And so this is just a huge stressor for a job that is predominantly female dominated. So what about dog rescues? Yeah, dog rescues are run by women. And they're also led by female founders and directors. And so now we're starting to get into that part that I was telling you about earlier. These industries that I'm talking to you about, these are not all owned by your toxic masculinity, rich white dudes that everybody thinks is the problem with the wage inequality and the wage gap, the inequality for female workers. As you see right here, most of these places are run by female founders or directors, especially these 501c3 charities. They're run by female leadership. Yeah. And so women suffer injuries at dog rescues where they volunteer or where they work. Women suffer injuries while volunteering at dog rescues. There's some recent ones right here. March 13th, 2025. Woman's face savagely mauled by pit bulls. I have a full playlist of many of these stories where women go work for a dog rescue. They try to, save the puppies. And guess what? They get killed, mauled, put in the hospital. They can't work. All because they're going to go work for a female-owned dog rescue. Wow. So now let's look up some information about the ownership of these places where women are suffering all these injuries and risks. A significant portion of dog grooming business are female-owned, 86% of the workforce in the pet grooming industry. So this is women hiring women for a dangerous job serving dogs. Yep. What about this one? Dog walking business. It says women own up to 82% of the dog walking business. I mean, most of these pet sitting too, if you look at the resources, pet sitting businesses too, primarily women owned. And it's crazy because they push this as like women's liberation and women's empowerment and all that kind of stuff. And all it is women's disempowerment, taking away their rights and free time and making them sick and injured and taking them away from their real children. Here's our guy again. So check this out. It's projected that by 2028, majority of veterinary practice owners in the U.S. will be women. All right. How about this? Most dog trainers are female, especially in the field of companion dog training. Oh, so all of these dogs that are getting trained to be good puppers, a good portion of them are being trained by women. Then they go out into society and they hurt and injure women in jobs where women are serving dogs. The irony, the sick, crazy irony. The dog training field is predominantly female, with many women excelling in this profession. Well, excelling at what? That's kind of weird. So, companion dogs that are being trained by women have attacked. They're generally not trained for aggressive behavior like service dogs, but companion dogs have attacked people, women. So, look, women are more likely to have those companion dogs that are being trained by women. Studies indicate that women are more likely to consider their pets as part of the family. They have a stronger emotional bond with their dogs compared to men. Yeah. So, companion dogs, more women own companion dogs than men. More women are training companion dogs than men. And then what happens? The women get attacked by the dogs that were trained by women. Not your rich capitalist douchebag that everybody thinks is the problem here. So what about women spending more dog food money than men? Yep. According to the statistics, it's about $647 for women and $282 annually. I'm thinking it's probably a lot more because dog food is really expensive now. But what is the importance of that? Well, if the woman is buying more dog food, then that means more obese dogs. We have a lot of obese dogs here in America. So that means all the veterinarians, the dog groomers, the dog walkers, the doggy daycare, they have to load and unload, pick up and put down and handle and manage heavier obese dogs. And all the sprains and strains and muscle problems that the dog groomers have, that comes from the weight of the dog. Not just my opinion on that one either. Obese dogs can make veterinary technicians' job more challenging due to the increased health risks. So the dog is sicker, which means it's shedding more nasty crap, but it also needs more care and management, and it needs handling and treating overweight pets can be physically demanding. So it's not just the weight of the dog, it's the fact that the thing is more sickly and requires more of your compassion, more of your hormone-driven mommy instincts for this poor obese dog. Oh no. It's been sitting at home, more than likely being fed by the fur mommy, being given more treats, more food by the fur mommy. Yeah. So what about dog fostering? The taxpayer funded thing where you get to foster a dog and get a bunch of your bills paid for via 501c3 charity. Yeah, majority of people who foster dogs are women, reflecting a broader trend in animal welfare field where women dominate roles. So as you can see the pattern here, this is largely dominated by women too. And there's plenty of articles about this. Let me highlight one that I'll put in the description. But this one right here says, women can't stop fostering dogs. So they know this. All of the marketing companies that put out dog information, they aim it at women more than men because they know women have estrogen, they have the midlife crisis where they want to have a baby, they want to be a mommy, and so they trick them by offering them dog fostering. And so, like with our other industries and service, just like with the fostering and everything else, dog fosters, they get attacked. Women, children. This one mentions the case of the 7-month-old girl that was mauled to death by a dog while in foster care. Yeah. So, look at this one right here. Foster dogs that attack. This is not some kind of uncommon thing. The more dogs that you're fostering, the more risk that you have. Especially if you already have your own dogs, or your roommates, or friends, or uncle, or your kids already have a dog, and you want to go foster a dog. Next thing you know, you got a dog fight in your house. Next thing you know, you're going to the veterinarian, dominated by women, and they have to deal with these dogs bleeding all over the place. More stress on women. Yeah. And something else that happens with these foster dogs, these often lead to the hoarding cases, because they get so many dogs and then they can't afford them, and they don't want to admit their screw up, so they just hoard them. And then it takes a year or a couple months, and finally it's like 20, 30 dogs in a basement living in their own piss and shit. Which, that situation for women is also very, very stressful. So there you go. That's been a look at the systemic misogyny of dog ownership. In the description will be a link to several of these videos as well as the sources for all of this. Let's read the definition before we head out. Misogyny is hatred or contempt for a prejudice against women or girls. It is a form of sexism that can keep women at a lower social status than men, thus maintaining the social roles of the patriarchy. Well, if any of your politicians are talking about the patriarchy or toxic masculinity, and they're not talking about this crazy dog culture, switch the channel, turn them off, don't spend a freaking dime on them, because they don't give a crap about women. They're putting up dogs on their social profile to get more likes. Nope, they're promoting all this bullshit. Yeah. The part about here, it says it keeps women at a lower social status than men. Well, it basically keeps women at just a lower social status, period. Because if you're being hurt and injured, you're having to work harder to take care of these dogs. All of your muscles and your bones and your joints and your hormones are being taken advantage of to take care of these dogs. You can't really be a good mom. You can't be a good wife. So it's not just hurting women, it's hurting the whole society. And that's kind of like my broader point here. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment, guys. See you later.